Kentucky Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, the biggest races at the best tracks. From the Kentucky Derby to the Breeders' Cup. The best horse racing coverage is right here on Past the Wire TV.
Very good Sunday morning to each of you. Sunday morning coffee on Past the Wire TV. I am Big Race Jim. Thanks as always to Shore Bet Coffee, Amwager, and our friends at Pleasant Acres. I feel like we're in this lull, right? I'm like thinking yesterday, and admittedly, I didn't really watch all that much racing. John had me do the Shore Bet Coffee play of the day yesterday on YouTube because he was jet setting off to the Monaco Grand Prix, which is happening right now as I look over towards my TV that's not even on. So John's over in Monaco, rubbing elbows with high society. I'm in my kitchen doing Sunday morning coffee, and I was thinking, what is what is there to talk about? And I feel like the Pratt versus Rispoli ride uh, in the Preakness. I already talked about that. I feel like it's kind of old hat at this point. We're looking at some probables for the Belmont. Looks to be a little bit of a light field, maybe 6 or 7 horses, which would be a little disappointing. But if we get the field that is listed so far, I would think that Rodriguez has a nice pace advantage because sovereignty, journalism, Hill Road. Who else was in there? Who else was in there? Baeza. Uh, they all like to come from off the pace. Gosker was in there, and he was up on the pace in the Preakness. So that was, and he almost stole that thing. Um, but if it stays those 7 horses that I saw this morning, then I think Rodriguez has a good a shot as anybody going up against the Derby and the Preakness winner. And as I'm talking about that, the marketing of the Belmont will be 2 things. It's at Saratoga again, which, like we talked about last week, it seems like they're having trouble selling tickets. Um, so, if you're not there, who cares where the race is run? Maybe, and it's going to be Derby winner versus Preakness winner, 1-2 in the Derby. The rematch, settled the score in the Belmont, and I just don't know. I don't know that works for the casual fan, right? Like Derby wagering, Derby ratings were um, off the charts, right? Best ever, most wagering dollars ever, highest TV ratings ever, and perhaps sovereignty not running in the Preakness is why we didn't see that wagering and those TV ratings. I thought I saw that the Preakness TV ratings were rather low, and maybe that's because sovereignty didn't go. Um, and maybe we lost those people that would have watched, and they're not interested in the Belmont because it's, a little over a month after the Derby, and they've already moved on to something else. I mean, you know, I'm not much of an NBA guy, but the NBA playoffs have been pretty compelling. I find myself watching more NBA playoffs than I have in years, because they've been entertaining. And I wonder if maybe people have gone on and are back to watching NBA, NHL, and not paying attention to horse racing. Um, and I'm just not sure that getting people to watch, if sovereignty versus journalism again is the marketing tactic. I think in this day and age, we have to market the wagering side and the big tickets, like big winning tickets, um, big payoff tickets, not not caveman tickets that cost you $250 in a pick five. But I think maybe that would help get people into the game. But then again, at the same time, like who's winning with a lot of those tickets, right? It's probably the CAWs, and I'm sure that there's something in there that says that the tracks aren't allowed to share their share their tickets. So I don't know, kind of a double-edged sword, but something I was thinking about this morning. If marketing sovereignty versus journalism, Derby winner versus Preakness winner, the rematch, the tiebreaker in in the Belmont is the right marketing tactic, and because that's what they're going to do, obviously. Um, and I'm just not so sure that is enough. But hey, we'll see. I thought the Fox production last year um, was was decent. Um, the NBC stuff has just kind of become a bit laborious in my opinion. Uh, so we'll see what happens this year, but not sure I'm a fan of that marketing tactic. The other thing, it's Memorial Day weekend. So if any military are watching, thank you for your service. Um, Today, tomorrow, and every day, really. But what do we always last 10 years? I was looking 10, 11 years. 2014 was the first year that they moved the Met Mile off of Memorial Day weekend and put it on this, you know, super Belmont Stakes Day, which I'll say I'm a big fan of. Um, I don't get terribly nostalgic for the way things used to be. Um, it's just not my I don't know, it's not the way my brain works. So not a big deal to me to move the Met Mile off of Memorial Day weekend. That said, it's been 11 years. I'm a big fan of, the 7 or 8 stakes races on Belmont Day. I think it makes for an excellent card, super exciting, great racing all the way around, highly competitive racing, which leads to the potential for bigger payouts, which could be a marketing, which could be a marketing thing. Um, but I was looking back at some Met Mile charts because it's Memorial Day weekend. I know a lot of people like to hope and pray that the Met Mile would come back to Memorial Day weekend. And I've got two thoughts on this. One, the mile races at Saratoga out of that Wilson chute have consistently been a lot slower than the one turn mile races at Aqueduct um, or Belmont Park. Just thinking obviously too about the class of the horses, right? Let's compare apples to apples in terms of the stakes races and whatnot. Those one turn miles at Aqueduct and Belmont consistently faster than what we've seen the last couple of years throughout the summer and last year on Belmont Day at Saratoga. So take that into account when you're handicapping the races. What do we got? We got 2 more weeks until the Belmont. So keep that in mind. And also, like, I thought this would have been a perfect opportunity for Naira to just move the um, Met Mile to this weekend at Aqueduct, because what did we have yesterday? We had one one listed stake. Today we have let's see. Do we have any stakes races? Mm, no. And we don't have any stakes races there tomorrow. So, given the way that track has been playing, Saratoga, I mean, out of the Wilson chute, with the races being a little bit slower, not a ton of horses in there. Um, though I will say I was pleasantly surprised last year by how many horses the um, were in the Met Mile. Um, oh, actually, there's only six. I take that back. I thought there was eight. Um, the way that track has been playing out of the Wilson chute, a little bit slower at that mile distance, smaller fields, and the inside posts typically doing a heck of a lot better. Um, it just seemed like this would have been the perfect opportunity for Naira to move the Met Mile to this weekend, either Saturday, Sunday, or tomorrow. And they didn't, and that's a little disappointing, just from a sheer competitive aspect, right? There's not great quality racing there this weekend. The Met Mile would have elevated any of those cards. You probably would have gotten a decent 8, 9, 10, 12 horse field for sure in that race. Um, I think I read an article the other day that was saying that, for breeders, last year's Met Mile, national treasure, this year's Met Mile, who knows? I've seen White Abario kind of getting revved up for that. Um, is out of the Wilson chute, is it a stallion making race like we've seen be the case in years past? I guess that remains to be seen. But there was an article, I forget where it was, Blood Horse maybe, um, where they were saying that it might not be looked at all too kindly in the years ahead because of the uniqueness of that Wilson chute. So I think there's all of these different factors and reasons, and it was an opportunity for Naira to move the Met Mile to um, Memorial Day weekend, let it stand on its own, be the centerpiece, market it, and they dropped the ball, and that's a little disappointing. But who knows? Maybe in 2 weeks there'll be 10 horses coming out of that Wilson chute, and it'll be a great race, and they'll run super fast. Um, I'm not holding my breath, but the potential is there, I guess. So just a quick word on the Met Mile. We'll take a quick break. I'm going to come back, and I want to talk about Churchill Downs. They've got a huge carryover in the late pick five today. I think 290,000. Um, so uh, I won't share any opinions per se, but just want to talk about the that track, how it's been playing lately, and give you maybe a pointer or two on the carryover. We'll be Right back. Just stick with us.
Go.
All right, we're back. Churchill Downs last couple of days. Nobals won. Was it yesterday? And he set a track record for like 5 furlongs on the turf. There was like a couple of 2-year-old turf records that went down on like Thursday or Friday, and it's just like, what? Like, why is this? Why is this all happening at the same time? And I think that speaks to the main the main point is that I feel like we have to pay attention to horse racing every day to kind of catch these weird anomalies, so we can be better prepared when these horses show back up. Like, no balls, Breeders' Cup winner. Don't take anything away from him. Fine. Um, but we've seen that he's had to kind of go down the ranks in class to be successful and be competitive. Um, and a lot of times I feel like we just kind of look at Breeders' Cup winner and like all of last year, right? His campaign, like you knew he was vulnerable in a lot of these races. And yet he continued to get bet and bet and bet and bet. I'm pulling up his career statistics here. Um, so yesterday, allowance optional claiming race won at Churchill. Turfway Park listed stakes finished second. Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint Stakes listed stakes finished seventh. Grade 2 at Woodbine, he won. Uh, Grade 2 at Keeneland at the end of last year in the fall, finished fifth. Grade 2 at Kentucky Downs, fourth. Allowance optional claimer at Saratoga, fourth. Right? And that all came off of his Breeders' Cup win at Santa Anita, where he was showing good form throughout that year. Um, and I know that there was like a ton of rain uh, as he kind of prepped through the spring and the summer to make his season debut at the end of July. It must have been Jim Dandy Day. But you just kind of knew that he wasn't in peak form in that race. And he went off as the favorite at, you know, less than 2 to 1. So here's my point. I think we need to pay consistent attention to horse racing because what are we going to hear? No ball sets the track record. But 2 days ago, a day ago, whatever it was, a 2-year-old set the 2-year-old turf record at Churchill. Like these feats while we've seen track records fall, sure, but at the same time, like, isn't it weird that it happened like 2 days in a row? There was some sort of track record getting broken. And I think, not to take anything away from these horses, like maybe they did do it, right? Who knows? Nobody knows how to time a race in horse racing. Um, but my point is, it's weird that it happened 2 days in a row. So I would look at both of those horses a lot closer moving forward. And I think if we're not paying attention, we miss that. And we just see, like, oh my God, look at this super fast time for this 2-year-old. Look at this super fast time for Nobals. And because what did he do? He did the 5 furlongs yesterday in, yeah, just over a minute, like 101, just shy of 101 track record. Right. And who was it? Who was it last year? Um, oh man, there's that horse that set the was Reeves Thoroughbreds horse that set the world record for running 5 furlongs in under a minute at Saratoga, whose name I can't remember now. Um, but again, I just think take a look a little bit closer at those horses moving forward. Because when you have records fall like that on back-to-back days, like, you have to look at the track, I think. Because it's just odd that it would happen so close to one another on the same track. So I would be taking a little bit of a harder look at those horses moving forward, while most other people, I would imagine, would be looking at the time, the speed figure, and getting caught up in that, and perhaps it might lend itself to a little bit of value in whatever races that they do show up in later. So one last thing on the pick five carryover. Um, this is the time to jump in, right? I think there's a lot of good money in these pools. Um, and I don't know. John might John might disagree with my wagering advice here. But I do think when you have $290,000 of extra money in the pool, um, I think you can look at it one of two ways. You could try and go super, super skinny and, make a monumental score, which, that takes some guts. Or I think you can add one or two horses in that sequence that you're kind of on the fence about, and still maintain some equity, because there is a a lot of added money in those pools. And I would lean towards the latter. Maybe I don't maybe I don't have as much guts as John or some of you to go super tight and try and make a huge score in a carryover pool. I'd lean the other way and just kind of cover myself just a little bit more. Now, I'm not saying add, an extra horse or two per race. I'm saying add an extra horse or two throughout the entire sequence, um, to give you just a bit more coverage. And I think you can get away with that when there's some extra money in the pool, and you won't give up much. You won't give up much equity. So I'll take a closer look at it today. But that's just how I envision it. That's how I think about it with these big carryovers. And we don't get these $290,000 carryovers hardly ever. Usually they're a lot smaller. So if you're playing, good luck. Couple weeks till the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival up at Saratoga. Geo is going to have his Belmont seminar, which I'll run the commercial for here in a second. So if you want the deepest of deep dives into every stakes race on that card. Tune in, sign up, grab your spot. Should be full of excellent handicapping information, and no stone will be unturned with Geo. You know that for a fact. All right, thanks again for everybody for tuning in. Sunday morning coffee, Pass the Wire TV, Shore Bet Coffee, Amwager, Pleasant Acres. I'm Big Race Jim, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Exclusively here on Pass the Wire, the Geo City Belmont Stakes seminar, live with me, doing a complete deep dive covering every horse in all 7 graded stakes races leading to the 157th Belmont Stakes.
Dornick, and my frame it will be Dornick and Luis Saez to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
It will be with our collective handicap and focus. We'll fully discuss with Q&A after each race, this for maximum preparation, so you will be as informed as possible to make your very best window decisions on this much anticipated full card day at Saratoga.
National Treasure wastes no time rocketing out of the gate. It's a 1-horse race. National Treasure and Flavien Prat making short work of the competition, devastating them in the Hillendale Metropolitan Handicap.
For as long as we need, we'll focus to the absolute finish.
Go.
It's simplification and Javier.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, head into the final for sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Pass the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Pass the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.